This computer, excellent. Hey folks, welcome to CIA's first webinar, what do you call it, agent member webinar for 2018. And as you can see, I have someone very special with me today. Agent 111 Michael Lutin is in the house, and we're very excited about that because Michael's visiting Melbourne. We've been here for a conference, and so I snatched him up so we could have a good chat here for the members, our special members who support the network and what we do. So we're very happy to have you guys here, and big welcome to Michael.
I'm thrilled to be in Australia because when I left New York, it was -20. So to see everything green and beautiful and flowering and the butterflies, it's great to be here.
Excellent. Yeah. And the conference was good?
It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And it was very well attended. Many local and international speakers. The food was excellent. And we had a fantastic gala to which you attended.
That's all I could make it to. I've got a lot of things going on at the moment.
It was beautiful. Yeah. It was a beautiful night, and it was a great dancing night, great eating night, and a lot of fun. So it's been a great conference.
Yeah.
It's now over, and I'm happy to say I'll be resting after a grueling trip over here, and I'll be resting in Melbourne for the rest of the weekend. I'm thrilled about that. I need it.
You need a rest.
Well, we made the wrong ticket. I've come here many times to Australia, and I usually come Qantas.
That's the good way to go. Yes,
or even Air New Zealand is good, right? But I like Cathay Pacific. I've done them to Asia before, so I told my assistant, get me a Cathay Pacific ticket. He says, it's just one quick stopover in Hong Kong. So I said, oh, that's fine. I think with my great geographical skills that it's 2 hours away from here. So,
right.
Yeah. So we fly all night, which was quite pleasant. We flew in a better class, and so it was very nice. We get here, and I thought we were here. Hong Kong is a 5-hour layover. A 5-hour layover, and then I say to the people, how long to Melbourne? A couple hours? 8. 8 hours more. So we were 33 hours in the air. Great to be here, but it was a long trip. So next time I come, which I hope is soon, I will come back in Qantas or Air New Zealand. I heard there's a very fast one that goes from here to Dallas.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Okay.
You know about that?
Texas, yes. Yeah. I think it's from Sydney, not from Melbourne, but still, if you get to Sydney, that's all right.
Oh, it is from Sydney, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's from Sydney. But I did hear, we had a webinar with Wendy Stacey late last year. She was talking about 2020 and talking about the flight from, I think it's Australia to the UK, going to be condensed to something like 8 hours or whatever, right? Now I can't remember the statistics, but the webinar's on our.
It's going to be how many hours?
I can't remember exactly, but it's like considerably condensed, like to 8 hours or 6 hours from Australia to the UK, which now takes us, I don't know, 20 or something, right? With a stopover.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, so, that is our kind of longest trek, isn't it? It's really hard.
Great in the middle of winter and here to come get sunburn. It's
You come back with a tan, that's right. So I can see, look, some of the people that are online at the moment were at the ball. So Carol, Gil, Jen, I'm not sure who, and Terence. So I know you all had a good time, and maybe you didn't meet Michael there, but yeah. So look, there's a lot to talk about. What's the being our first webinar for the members for 2018, it's been quite a start, hasn't it?
Yes, I think that one of the earmarks of this year will involve the departure of Chiron from Pisces and the Venus-Pluto conjunction with the Sun that happened in January.
On the 8th,
and the 8th and 9th of January. I think that those are stamps that will be powerful determinators of 2018. And of course, the conjunction of Pluto to its own south node, which will affect world politics, changing everything in this world that we know of. Mm-hmm. I think those three aspects of the Capricorn, the Pisces, and this Venus-Pluto conjunction, which I will show you. See that? That's called a superior Venus conjunction with the Sun, means it's on the other side of the Earth. And with Pluto, it's unusual because it means powerful relationships, mostly loving relationships, business and personal mixed, but separation. So it's sometimes about separation of parent and child, a mother and child especially, but it is and we'll talk about why, but I think that superior conjunction of Venus with the Sun with Pluto there means that everybody has to endure and enjoy powerful relationships at a distance. So Venus, Pluto, and the Sun happened on January 8th, and I think it put a stamp on the year of intense relationships that either form or are bonded, and they also mean people are separated from you, sometimes permanently, sometimes separated, but it is also, it's similar because it happened at 28 Capricorn.
18, 19 Capricorn.
No, that conjunction did, exactly. Mm-hmm. Well, it happened at the degree, Venus at 28 Capricorn. Why should I say that? 28
Capricorn's coming up for some reason, but the conjunction was 18.
The conjunction was 18, right.
Yeah.
But Venus at 28 Capricorn is the point at which Mars will go direct later in the year. Right. Uh-huh. So Venus at 28 Capricorn, which was a brief transit, indicated, to me that means Wonder Woman. Venus at the exaltation point of Mars shows the rise of women even further. And this Venus-Pluto conjunction shows women now considering running for office all over the world. It's happening. And the supremacy of women is guaranteed now for a long time, with Regulus coming in already into Virgo. This is an earmark of the year of women in politics. Venus, Pluto, standing apart and standing up. And so I think that the Venus, Pluto at 18, and then Venus traveling on to 28, where Mars will go, Mars will go direct. So Venus at 28 Capricorn, I think symbolizes the rise of the supremacy of women in this world, not this country. And on a personal level, it represents, I think, that everybody has to be separated from the ones they love because of duty or some other thing that calls one or the other way. Sometimes it's a permanent separation. But I think that's one of the things I think that was very significant this year.
Well, as you say, yes, so we start the year off with the Venus-Pluto star point, as we call it. And then the next star point, so Venus retrograde, when she's back on the other side of the sun, will be in Scorpio. Right. So as you're talking about relationships, Scorpio, it's at the moment, it's almost like we're working out who to trust. And then Scorpio is more, enmeshed with those that we trust or love or are bonded with. Because Venus, this is the year Venus will have two star points. So on the outer and the inner, usually it's only once a year. So
No. Well, Venus always has a conjunction with the sun twice a year, doesn't it?
No, because it's every 9.5 months. So it will fall into another year. But this year it's actually...
But in every 9 months, during every 9-month period, there has to be at least one.
Yeah, so we've got this one, January, October, next, what will it be, next August, then the year after, right? What I'm saying that they'll only happen then once a year, once in a calendar year.
Once in every 9 months, there has to be a Venus-Sun conjunction.
Yes.
It has to either be a direct one, which is opposite the Earth, or a retrograde one. And this one was opposite. And when you have an opposite Venus from the Earth, there is always love with separation. And so it always marks a separation in the life and the family. And it always does.
Well, it's certainly happening here at my household with my mother-in-law about to take off. And anyway, she's 96. It's just sad to watch. But whatever's happening out there for you guys, hopefully it's not that heartfelt.
Well, that brings up the other issue, and that is the conjunction of, I shouldn't say conjunction, the exit of Chiron from Pisces. So that, it doesn't mean there's no joy in the world, because there's always joy, but these are two serious aspects that happened in this year. And I think that Chiron at the end of Pisces is about people's inner sorrow, because Chiron rules, anyway, it rules the pain that precedes a joyous transformation and a liberation. I think that's why Chiron rules funeral directors and obstetricians, because they're both present at the pain that precedes a great transformation.
Oh, I didn't know that it was obstetricians.
I just made that up.
Did you? Okay. Makes sense, though.
I made that up because
if he makes it up, you can tell it's good.
No, wait. No.
Or it's right.
When you think about it, when you think about it and you see that it's, giving birth is a pain for both the mother and the child, because there's a separation, and there's a tragic separation of this bond, and yet it's a joyous event for both. And the same thing with the death. The death is a very painful transformation, but it is a liberation for all the people involved. So I think that the fact that it's at 29 Pisces is the most spiritually wrenching and difficult task. It's really, when you go back to the Christian story, it's really the Christian myth relived. So everybody has this need to surrender privately. Something is painful that they don't want to even talk about. But getting that out and letting it go and having faith that there is a tomorrow is what will get everyone in this world through it, because there is a great pessimism in the world today of what we're doing to the planet, what's going on. But we have to go through this period, and it's going to retrograde back into the end of Pisces before it finally gets into Aries. I think that's a crucial element. And what it can do, it can make people feel, the hell with it. It can make people very passive, not in a spiritually accepting way, but in a way of hopelessness. And that's why, thank God for Capricorn, because that gets you out of bed.
That's right. We got to do something. Yeah, that's right.
No, it's the truth. It's a wonderful balance to create, because part of you would like to just stay in bed, not get up. And the Capricorn part of us, which is strong not only from this Venus-Pluto conjunction, but from Saturn's entrance into it, gets you out of bed and says, stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan.
Stick to the plan. So it's a dialogue between stick to the plan and no, I don't want to get up. Stick to the plan. I don't want to get up. That's the situation of the year.
Well, this kind of brings up the thought to me that, sticking to the plan is working on things that you enjoy, doing what you love. If we can all find that in life.
I think don't you think it's about our commitment to being in the world?
Yeah. And again, so doing it with a joy. Like if you're doing it, it's like, oh, I've got to get up because, and of course we're all going to have those things in life.
That's the gratitude. The gratitude is that we don't have an empty life. You've got kids.
Connections, kids.
Yeah, you've got kids, you have a job, responsibilities, and that regularity and that commitment to being in the world keeps us in the world. It keeps people alive. And that's why I feel grateful that we have these things right now. Even though the Pisces part of us is pulling against it, we don't feel like doing it. We have the responsibilities in the world, and and I feel grateful for that myself. Yeah.
Well, this brings up a good kind of question to contemplate, in a sense. What do you feel astrology's responsibility is in the world? Or is there one? with so much going on, with, you know, in so many different ways, different facets, fake astrology, you know, however we want to look at it, is so kind of exploded really through social media. Where are we heading?
I think, well, it's anybody's guess, but I think that it's our responsibility to tell people to look up.
Well, to
literally,
teach them, right.
Literally and
yeah.
figuratively. People come to us because they have doubts and they would like to know. Nobody ever comes for horoscope reading for no reason. And so I think that they want, pardon me, they want someone to touch into them at an intimate level to really know what they're going through. And that helps them be more authentic. And it's the authenticity that frees people from all of their woes. But what you say is, what is astrology's job? I don't know what astrology's job is. I think that my job now is to let people know I think something very major is going on in the world. I think the Pluto conjunction with the South Node represents a dark force that's operating, because Pluto over its node, but the only last time it happened was in the 1930s, late 20s and 30s. And not to compare our time with that time at all necessarily, but you can feel that there are forces pulling the world down, pulling the world away from the light, pulling it into a black hole of ecological disasters, animals, everything that's going on, politics, finances, everything seems very dark right now, and it is. Don't kid yourself. There are dark forces, there are dark people pulling at it, and one of the things that astrology does is that it attracts the light beings. It attracts people that are really fighting against self-destruction, fighting against destruction of the planet. I was thinking the other day, planets send down their vibes to us, right? We get the vibe from Jupiter, we get the vibe. What are we sending out?
Yeah.
What if your neighbor lived next door and just started throwing their garbage in your backyard? Right over the fence. And that was your neighbor. And that neighbor was actually throwing their garbage and everything else, and dead animals and dead people, just throwing it into a big pile in the yard. And plastic and everything. That would be what and then the smell would be horrendous. That's happening. And our planetary neighbors don't like it. And we do have planetary neighbors, which I believe disclosure is really imminent. It's already happened. Anyone you talk to recognizes that there are planetary neighbors. There is a planetary society. And that's, I believe, going to be one of the next couple of years that will be open. I received from NASA couple of years ago, a downloadable book that's you can still download it, but I don't know why I got it. It's called Archaeology, Anthropology, and Interstellar Communication. Written by several different physicists, all about the pluses and the minuses of interstellar communication. Why would they send that out? Why to me? I can't even get my cell phone to get on the web. So,
well, we have to do more with that. What can we do?
So I believe that we're coming to a place where more people are recognizing that we are a planetary society, and whoever is warning us against what we are doing to this planet, it's at a critical mass with the nuclear explosions and all of the garbage and everything else. It's now in 2018 reaching a critical mass. I don't know who or what is causing this to happen, except we all brought it into being. But I think that this is the year for people to realize that we're now in serious trouble and that we need to fight everything to keep the world, the politics, the economy, and all the little cats and dogs from going down this dark hole.
Well, this is, you know, I suppose that role of astrologers, what we do, we light people's lives up in, you know, various ways. And then as a collective, or as, you know, the CIA or other groups, communities, you know, we're lighting up people's lives, which is so rewarding. So I'm very happy to have a rewarding job, you know, and I think astrology in itself, like every time you see a client, just on the personal level, I leave feeling really, you know, uplifted, and because I know I've helped this person so much.
And you can see it happen.
You can see it, yeah.
You can see it happen, and it happens within about half of the time of the reading. You see something has been lifted. And it's not because you looked around for some good news. It's not about that. Because if you approach people with your authentic view and compassion, you can tell them anything. You can see anything there, and you can make them realize that everything that's in that chart, everything that's happening is part of their growth, their development, their liberation. And that's not just a lot of nonsense. It really, you can really feel it in that reading. I feel so grateful that I have been, and we had been, invited in to sit at the table of astrologers in the world and in the universe. And that's what we're doing. We're helping people to arise and awaken. And that's why we do it.
Yeah. And it's not any kind of world control or anything like that.
But somebody's out for world control.
Someone's out for world control.
Somebody is definitely out for world control. And I don't know what city they come from, and I don't know what planet they come from. But somebody is madly trying to get control of Earth and its resources, including the water.
That's a bit...
Okay, forget I said it. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, but the dark forces have been here, so you're talking about an outside force now.
I'm not sure whether I'm talking about an outside force or a coalition of outside and inside forces, or maybe all just inside forces. But when you're dealing with Capricorn. Capricorn, and when you're dealing with Pluto and Capricorn, you're always dealing with invasion. You look back in history, Capricorn is about invasion of property and taking what somebody else, that's not only what Capricorn is, but the dark side of Capricorn.
Physical taking stuff.
Yes. Moving in on somebody else's territory. Historically, that's what happened. Or system.
I see Capricorn as system,
I mean, in that book from NASA, they did say that a superior intelligence, a superior civilization moving in on an inferior civilization, the inferior civilization disappears. It's been historically true in every country. But it is definitely now our responsibility to fight the dark side of Capricorn, because Capricorn is the apex of the horoscope. It rules complete justice. But the perversion of that justice is greed. And
Control.
Greed and control.
Well, yeah, as I see it, we can only work with the light. So to fight the dark, work with the light, and as much as we can.
But people who know me know that I don't just work with the light. You know, I don't. And the thing is that I have a dark side that I don't deny. I don't, go around killing little dogs. But I mean, I have a dark side also. I'm trying to come to terms with that and to fight for what I've given up a lot of my life to do, and that is to relieve the suffering of all the other beings. That's my promise. That if I'm allowed to keep doing astrology, my goal will be to relieve the suffering of other beings. And sometimes in so doing that, you have to fight. You have to fight beings who cause suffering to other beings. So
it's almost like understanding the dark side so you can do more with it. Yeah, no, I understand that.
Yeah, and you can't just pretend everything is a candy stripe sugar cane. It's not. So I think that recognizing that there are people and there are forces out there who want to control this planet, whether they could be from any country, they could be from anywhere, but I don't think they're all human, but they're all very inhuman, whoever they are. Because they don't care about the suffering of the poor. They don't care about hunger. They care about the dark side of preserving the system and hedging uncertainty. Because people are scared of uncertainty. They're scared of taking a chance. They're scared because they've gathered their little things all together. And I
want more, I want more. I haven't got enough. That's what I don't understand. It's like once you've got so much, like how much more do you need?
If your life is organized around the rainy day in the future, there's no number of what you could have enough.
It's nuts,
but if you have faith, first you have to have enough. Then if you have faith, then you'll have charity. And if you have charity, you recognize you can share what you have because there's always plenty for everybody. And I think that that's one of the perversions that is going on, is that there's a gathering of resources in the hopes of controlling other people for those resources. That's very scary. There was a line in one of the Star Trek movies, and it was in the Journey Home, where had to come back in the into the past and collect the whales. Do you remember that one?
Not really, but
Well, Captain Kirk meets this woman, Catherine Hicks, and he takes her. He invites her out to dinner. So they're out to dinner, and they have to leave early. So he sort of looks at her, and she says, "Well, I suppose they don't have money in the 23rd century." And Shatter says, "Well, we don't, and it's impossible for us to imagine a time where people would be able to share things." And that's why Gene Roddenberry was such a genius, to create a set of characters and a set of situations that can foresee a utopian society where there are still enemies. There are still bad guys, but that there is a society that evolves from Earth that has charity and compassion and the good of all beings in mind. That was the great thing about Roddenberry. That's why he did not come from this town. He came from someplace else.
The enlightened ones, hey? Talking about something coming from somewhere else, Uranus into Taurus this year as well. You talked about Chiron going into Aries, Uranus in Taurus. I know the Chiron into Aries is around, the 29th degree. As you said, it's the end of the zodiac and the beginning of the zodiac all at once. But Uranus into Taurus, do you see some of that lightening up coming down to Earth in the 7 years?
I don't know what that's going to mean. I know it's going to mean Earth changes, big ones.
So like physical earthquakey stuff, yes.
Were you ever in an earthquake?
Only really quick.
I was in the big one in Los Angeles in the 90s. I'm sleeping away in my bed, and all of a sudden the bed starts shaking. So I thought that the cats had jumped out of the bed. I was in my friend Angel's house. And then I thought, oh no, the bed is knocking against the wall. And then I realized the wall is knocking against the bed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it sounded like a train coming straight from somewhere, right under the house, like a super train. And then it was calm. Yeah, it was wild. So I think you can expect earth changes. And because it's Uranus, you don't know what it is.
You don't know what to expect.
Because whatever you make up, it won't be that. It's kind of the same thing is going to be true in the financial world. People say, well, it was in 1934, in the 30s, there was the New Deal, they changed the money. Don't think it's going to be the same as it was then. Something is going on in world finance that I don't know how to figure out.
The cryptocurrency.
I think that's a big red herring.
People are saying it's just a bubble and, it's not here to stay. But
listen, if I knew all about money, I wouldn't be an astrologer.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think it's a red herring. I did from the minute of time I heard it, but I don't know. I don't really know. But
to me, it really suits the archetype of Uranus and Taurus. So it's sort of like cashless society,
cashless.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
cashless we've had for a while, but it's also the encryption of the information that is shared and stuff, and then somewhat untraceable by, systems and governments. That's and
right.
stuff. So it really suits that we're going to do it our own way, and we're going to have an economy that works separate. Well, this is the ideal. Again, a very, Aquarius thing, and I don't know if it's going to keep working like that. Bitcoin started that way, but now it's anyway. I mean, I don't understand.
Well,
I
don't think that planets manifest their highest vibration when they first enter.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So it has to first shake everything up. So I don't know how that's going to work out. Of course, if people who have earth signs will probably feel better about the change, but I don't really know. I know that it's all part of this transformation of systems and the collapse of different sets of government economy, and the governments that we had, And some people are heading toward this new world order with one government. In fact, in that NASA book, they said that we could not really enjoy the interaction with a higher species until we are a one world government, because it would, at that point, reduce the competition. But I don't really know. I know that if you read the Betty and Barney Hill material from the Interrupted Journey, and they were a couple that were claimed to be taken aboard a UFO years ago in 1961, I think. But whether you accept their story or not, she claimed that she said to the aliens or these beings, who was all telepathic, "Why would you pick us to take up?" She said, I can take you to our leaders in Washington." And they laughed. The creatures laughed. So this Uranus and Taurus is going to be a participating element, I believe, in the collapse of government and world rulership as we've known it. And it's all part of this great change, but I have no idea what it's going to be. There are some people who are very against the new world order. They're frightened of it. They think that it's going to control people. Let me ask you, would you get a chip in your hand if you could pay for everything with your chip?
Not really, because I'd like to be a bit more undercover. Like not being tracked everywhere I go. I mean, they do it on our phones, and there's so much going on with just having our phones on us all the time.
It's amazing. I went to a store to buy a microphone for my office. It's the great store in New York City. Everybody goes there. They have wonderful stuff at good prices. So I went with my assistant. We bought a microphone. My office is about 15 minutes by taxi to this store. So I bought it, I paid for it, we get to my place, and on Facebook, there's an ad for that store on my page.
That's the spooky thing. I do know that Apple actually is just the new upload, which is really cool. It stops the ads for you automatically, right?
Well, that's what they say.
Well, I mean, but that technology, anyway, it's always changeable, but you can stop that stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you're checking in on your phone all the time, it's like, Big Brother, whoever's looking at you will want to, can find you, so to speak. But what are we doing wrong anyway? I don't really mind if they do know what I'm doing, because I'm not doing
I don't care either, but I know that I used to know everybody's telephone number. I don't know anyone's number now.
Yeah, it's all messages and stuff, which makes it a lot easier, of course. It's a lot easier to be connected.
It's as big a transformation in the society as the automobile
massive,
was.
yeah, massive.
Yeah.
I think it's been a very Uranus in Aries type of experience, plus Neptune in Pisces. It's the connecting the individual to the everything, you know, like, and making you, you know, completely aware. And what's, you know, selfies is a very Uranus in Aries.
It's just that if you can't stand it, you're already too old for it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine at the end of the 19th century, where families were the core, Pluto and Cancer, everything was around the family, that you could be sitting, have dinner with your family, and suddenly a bell would ring, and it would be somebody wanting to talk to you from outside the house. What an invasion the telephone must have been to the sanctity of the home, sanctity. Now, we can't even go anywhere without checking who's calling or who to call. And that's just a change. That's just a consciousness change. Is it better? Is it better? Was it better when they brought ice into the house so that you could preserve food to the next meal instead of having to prepare fresh food what we think of as making life easier makes only the outer life easier. It doesn't do anything for the inner life. And you say, what does astrology do? Astrology can do things for your outer life, business astrology, horary astrology. But the function of astrology is to make your inner life better, no matter what's going on outside.
Exactly.
Because I'm not really, you know, I was so bad in school, we had to take physics.
Were you bad at school?
No, I was good in school. Some things I was terrible at. We had in physics, I think it was called physics. We took a whole semester on electricity. Okay. So I tried to follow everything. I did all the homework about the, you know, AC and the DC and all this stuff. The final exam is one question. How does a toaster make toast? I looked at the exam. Everybody is writing feverishly. And I'm thinking, this has nothing to do with the whole course we just took. How does a toaster make toast? You put the toast in and you plug it into the wall and then it makes the toast. How do the toaster make toast? I finally said the only thing I can think of, so I wrote down the word witchcraft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It seemed like magic because it had nothing to do with what we were learning. So I was never that great in the science aspect of it. But I realized it was always all those inventions, which were brilliant, were making our outer life easier and allowing us to do things we could never dream of doing. My father was scared to fly. He was very scared to fly. But my mother once decided, well, I'm going.
I'm flying. That's the way.
He was terrified of flying. And they got on the plane and, you know, his knuckles and everything. And the pilot said to them, ladies and gentlemen, if you look off to the right, you'll see the Apollo spacecraft going to the moon. Oh, wow. And my father, who was afraid to get on an airplane before that, looked out the window and saw a spaceship going to the moon. To him, it was something that could never, ever be dreamed of. That was the end of his fear of flying. He flew all the time after that.
It's beyond that now. So
So we have to pay homage and be grateful for the minds that have created such miraculous things like TV.
Or this.
Being
able to
fantastic that we can communicate like this is wild.
Yeah.
But we have to remember it's making our outer life better. And that's one of the things. It's not just astrology. There are many other avenues. But that's what I think, to answer your original question, I think that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm thinking Uranus in Taurus is also a very coming down to, and this is a bit of my Sagittarian Pisces forethinking kind of mind that's always activated, is Uranus in Taurus. I can see astrology taking off in coffee shops and having more kind of interaction around meeting places, right?
Well, I would go along with that. I just hope they don't have an astrologer in the government.
Yeah.
Because then you know that nothing will happen every time there's a retrograde Mercury.
You're right. Yeah.
So I don't think that, I think that astrology is a great medium for communication and enlightenment. But I don't think we can only use astrology for governing or controlling. And there are many, there's medical astrology, there's horary astrology, there's electional astrology. I do not do that in my practice. I refer people out. You know, what's a good time to get married? But I always say it's too late. You're marrying this person. Now you want to know a good day to get married. It's way too late. You should have thought of it on the first day.
Yeah, right.
But I don't do that. But there are many kinds of astrology. That's not the kind of work that I do. And I refer people out in that case.
I've often had this thought about I liked looking into mundane astrology, and then I thought, what is the point of it though? Because what can I do with it? It's not like I can alert and say, hey, this is happening, and so I've moved way back from it, because it's like, what can we do with something like mundane astrology again, it's waking up the world.
No, but I think that it comes down to a personal level. That's a good question.
Yeah.
What can you do? Are you involved in some sort of control battle yourself?
It's almost like just wanting finding where we can be more helpful with astrology, right?
I didn't mean that. I mean that in a global sense, we know there's a bid for control that can be very ravenous and hungry. I'm saying, in what part of your life are you engaged in a political battle with another being, group, government? Are you also involved in competitive work? Are you involved in, I should say, a competitive sport in your life where it is getting very fierce and ferocious?
Oh, there's been a few things that come up now and then, but I'm a Pisces, so I don't like confrontation. So I'm not a political person. I definitely don't want to be.
I'm a Pisces, so I don't do that. Right. Okay.
Well, I mean, again,
the
politics of things don't really intrigue me. I'd rather kind of move on from them. I find them too restrictive.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you when you say, what can we do? As individuals, examine yourself.
Yeah.
Are you involved, or have you been involved, or have you noticed a political butting of heads in your own life? What we talked about, who on the way over here. Yeah. Yes. Your views against somebody else's views.
Yeah.
And how has that caused a rupture of communication? If people have strength and as well as compassion, maybe they don't have to have a rupture, because that in your own life and my life also, I've had it, and we all have, so that the Capricorn Pisces issue is not just the one world government or the aliens coming down.
It's the way we get on.
It's the way we get on. And I once went to a wonderful talk by the Dalai Lama in a big cathedral in New York City. And 5,000 people there. And they had everybody talking about world peace, all the great thinkers. Then they had the UN children holding hands. Made you want to slap them all. And he comes out and he says, look, this has been wonderful. You people are wonderful. But if you really want world peace, when you leave this place, why don't you just make a phone call to the one person you are not talking to?
Yeah.
There was silence, complete silence, and heads down with shame, because everybody, or many people, believe that world peace is something that you do when you give thousands to Doctors Without Borders, which is a good thing to do, by the way. But it's also the one person you simply cannot be real with. And that's what he was saying. And that's what would cause world peace.
Good point.
Isn't
Very
it?
good, yeah. I'm going to have to think about that when
Me
I
too.
finish, you know.
Me too.
Like, where can I... well, it's about, again, getting yourself better in the world. So it's a really good point, because if we're holding grudges or this or that, confronted by things we don't want to deal with, and that's the Chiron in Pisces, it's like, you know, this too much, or it's too painful, or poor me, painful, or poor me, I can't,
it's
you know.
Painful. And when you say that,
yeah,
I understand why people would become drug addicts and why they would consider jumping out the window and suicide. I can totally understand being in a situation that is not only painful to you, but impossible to solve. Whatever thing you do is going to cause pain to either you or the other person. And it's like watching someone very ill dying. You want to put a pillow over their face to put it out, but then that would cause guilt, and it's legal and all those things. So it is the unsolvable question that is the end of Pisces that leads to action that will, of course, liberate you.
Yeah. Well, so Chiron moves into Aries in end of April. We will be following up all these, you know, big movements during the year with different agents and stuff. So we don't need to get into it more. But what's an image of Chiron in Aries? I just feel like everyone's going to start walking around looking like a warrior with feathers and spears.
Let's put it this way. In order to get there, you got to go through the door. So I don't have any ideas yet. I'm trying to get through the door of 29 Pisces.
Right. Do that first, and then come out and see. Wow, so much to talk about. Well, before we kind of wrap it up, I don't want to keep Michael too long because he is on holidays now.
Actually, that's going to happen. I think I am going to have a few days of rest. At the beach.
Yeah. But I just wanted to talk about the eclipse. Well, this eclipse coming up, because we're going to have time to talk about the second eclipse for the 15th of Feb, which I'm going to talk with. I'm going to be with a few agents in India, so we're going to do an eclipse session from there. You're going
to India, aren't you?
Yes, on Monday. So in 5 days or something. And I'm in an awkward position because my mother-in-law is about to die, and if it doesn't happen soon, I can't be here for the funeral. So it's just kind of, anyway. I'll be in India for yes, I have to. I've got speaking spots. My husband's saying, go, you know, blessings and all that sort of stuff. But it's just an really awkward position. Anyway. So I just wanted to sort of talk about the eclipse that's coming up, which is next week. Of course, the 31st here and the first here, the 31st in other parts of the world. What's
that, the new or the full?
It's the lunar eclipse.
Okay.
It's first the lunar one at 11 degrees of Leo, right? So what are your thoughts on that? We talked in the car on the way here. It's at 11 degrees of Leo. Venus is on the south node, and
Ceres is on the north.
And the Ceres is on the north node. And we've also got, it's at 11 degrees of Leo, which I'll explain also is the secret, well, we call it the agent degree, because the CIA's got Mercury at 11 degrees of Leo. So I feel it's a very important eclipse for us. But just your thoughts, first of all, on, you know, Ceres, Venus, South Node, North Node, Leo, Aquarius.
Briefly.
Yeah, briefly, that's right.
Briefly, I would say this all began in August of 2017 with the solar eclipse at the end of Leo, which showed people that they need to be able to handle intimacy. That's what the Leo eclipse is about. It's about handling intimacy without fear. And I think that the North Node which is the eclipse, one of the eclipse points in Leo. That's where the nodes are. The North Node always makes you go out of your comfort zone. And so it's not comfortable for some people to accept intimacy and their feelings of intimacy. Because the South Node is your comfort zone in Aquarius, is not having to be committed or not having to have rules or not having to have boundaries, and certainly not having to express your most intimate feelings. But this whole axis, which really lasts a whole year, is about being able to be emotionally authentic about how you feel about people and how you feel. And that will help you in all your creative endeavors, because it's fake to think that you don't have these feelings. And it's real to acknowledge, at least unto yourself, that you have them. And that means that if you have to be able to allow people as much freedom as you want for yourself, because that's the North Node in Leo. And I always say that the North Node, the Leo people will always be, they'll be the first to marry the aliens when they get here. Because they only like to have the weirdest people, and then they try to make them very normal.
Make them like themselves. Right. Very interesting. Well, I think the South Node in Aquarius, I've been to quite a few things over this last year, like a big gathering in Costa Rica. I've noticed these tribes are really connecting now, like around the world, you know, the astrology tribes or whatever. There's just more and more of that. And this eclipse being at that 11 degrees of Leo is pretty, I don't know, it feels like it's bringing more of us together. Again, there's a bunch of us. You were supposed to be in India too. A bunch of us meeting in India.
I wasn't supposed to be in India.
Well, you were going originally.
I got invited to go to India, and I wanted to know what the situation was, because I had an automobile accident, and I said it was going to be very difficult to cross the world and go to Australia, where I was committed here, and then to go to India. Again, I probably thought it was like 2 hours away, like I thought Hong Kong was. So when I found out the distance, I realized it was going to be too much. Although I'm healed from my accident, I had a bad break of my leg. There's a lot of walking and running and stuff, and I didn't think that was right. And then as time went on, I saw they were inviting everybody and their cousin Joan to speak. And that how would they ever be able to organize something and not be just chaotic? And I thought, they're not going to, miss me. But I did that I'll tell you quickly. I did that with my first time coming to Australia. I got invited to Brisbane, but then I didn't have contact with the organizers. I didn't know anybody here.
All right.
So comes the week before the conference, and I think, I don't think I'm going to go. I haven't had any contact. They probably invited me in the spur of the moment.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Tuesday night, I get a phone call from the convener. And she said, just calling to see what your arrival time is. I said, my arrival time, yes. I've got to actually check that with the airline. What airline was that I was using? Yeah. So I called them and got one of those $1 million tickets. And I get across the world. I'd never come to Australia before. Across the world. I get here. She doesn't show up to pick me up. I'm waiting.
We wouldn't do that.
1 hour. 2 hours. Brisbane, it's 500 degrees already, So, and we didn't have cell phones then. So I go to the phone book and I call every person named Miller in the phone book and say, Mr. Miller, do you have a wife named Louise? No. Next one. Mr. Miller, do you have a wife named Louise? No. The names have been changed to protect the guilty.
Wow.
I get all the way down. I say, Mr. Miller, do you have a wife named Louise? He said, Yes. I said, is she an astrologer by any chance? He said, yes. I said,
Yay.
tell her she's in big trouble.
God, that would have been hard.
Oh, yeah.
I remember, those days you'd go out and say, I'll meet you at 7 o'clock in front of that theatre or whatever. And if they didn't turn up, you had no way of connecting and saying, why didn't you show up? And you'd just be furious and whatever, go home. And
so I didn't just blow off India. I did speak to the people, and I said, please consider me in the future. But it was way too chaotic.
Too much to do. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's good. I mean, I'll keep you all connected to what's going on there. But the openings look like a Bollywood show. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have.
So it's going to be quite different than what we're used to. But I think it's quite exciting to, I mean, do you know much of Eastern astrology at all?
You mean Vedic?
Yeah, Vedic.
I've studied it somewhat, and I have Vedic friends, and we discuss it.
Yep.
I think it's wonderful to I won't say bring the two together, that'll never happen. But to expose each other to each other's philosophy and see how many similarities there exist between them. And I think it's a good, healthy family thing to do. But I'm not going to be making it this time.
Well, I'll be reporting back for everyone how it goes. Alex will be there. Who else? Sol, Jonathan, there's a few. Vanessa, you've met Vanessa from Brazil as well. So there's a bunch of us. Yeah.
Oh, Segurado?
No, Guazelli. You met her in Los Angeles. Long hair. She was at our table. Yeah. Trade table.
I get people sometimes mixed up. There's somebody from here, and there's somebody from England. They look very much alike. So when I went to an English conference the first time, she was in the same dorm, and I said, wow, what are you doing here? And she said, what do you mean? I belong to the organization. I said, you belong to two organizations? She said, no, I belong just to this organization. Can I tell one story?
Yeah, of course.
A similar story. I'll tell you quickly. I'm in a supermarket, and there's a woman next to me, and she has a woolen hat pulled down over her ears, and she has a thing, she's sort of dressed like we do. So I said, oh, that must be an astrologer, because she says to me, get the organic beans, they're much better. So I said, okay, and I think, oh, she knows me. She's probably in one of the astrology groups. What's her name? I know, I must know her. And I said, oh, these are good beans. And she looked at me, she said, how are you doing? And I said, oh, I bet she's my client. I don't even remember who she is. I said, I figured this is who do it, because I was going to have a group come to my place on Monday night. I said, you coming to my place at Monday night? She said, what? No, I don't think so. I said, well, everyone's going to be there. She said, they are? And I said, yeah, everyone's going to be there. We thought you were coming. So she said, oh, I didn't get the email. I said, oh, my God. And she said, well, I haven't been working a lot. I said, you haven't? She said, you don't know I haven't been working? And then I thought, she is a client. And I said, no, I don't. She said, well, my mother died. And I said, gee, I didn't know that. She said, you didn't know my mother died? And I'm thinking, oh, I'm in it
so
now.
So someone closer.
Closer. I said, well, I've been out of the country. She said, well, that's why I went asking. You wouldn't have heard over. Where were you? I said, England. She said, and you didn't hear my mother died? It got worse and worse and worse. So I said, well, thanks a lot. I'll take the beans and I'll leave. I'll as I see her get into the taxi, I see it's Mia Farrow. She thought she knew me, and I thought I knew her. But she wasn't the astrologer, but we never dared to say it to each other. So when I said, and also her mother was a very famous actress. So when Marina Sullivan died, everybody knew that. So when she said, you know I haven't been working? You didn't know I wasn't working? I said, no. And then she said, you didn't know my mother died?
Is that a usual thing to see, celebrities in a coffee shop or whatever in New York?
I'm always very polite to them. I never bother them. But one night in Los Angeles, I got into an elevator going down to the car park. And I got in, there was nobody else. And Schwarzenegger got in also, and there was nobody else. And I'm very respectful. I just nodded to him, he nodded to me. And the elevator got stuck between 2 floors. And what seemed like an eternity, but was probably just 3 minutes, right? The elevator starts again. The doors open, and before he goes out, he turns around and he says to me, "Those eyes."
No, I'll be back, but those eyes.
Yeah, those eyes. Because I do look like I just killed my whole family. You know?
Yeah, there's that psycho look there, hey? Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I'm just, guys that are out there, if you've got any questions for Michael or myself,
Too late.
or just briefly, otherwise, I'm just going to kind of wrap it up. But with this eclipse coming up, make sure, because we've got all different levels in our membership here. So from astrologers to intermediate to ones that are just beginning. So this is mainly for the ones that are just beginning. Where's 11 degrees of Leo in your chart for where this eclipse is happening? So as Michael talked about the Venus and the relationships, Ceres I see as very much a goddess of initiation. So I think with all what's been culminating over the last month, this eclipse being lunar, so the full moon eclipse, it's not total, is it? No, it's just a partial one, is, yeah, conjunct Ceres, where with what's just gone on in the last month or so, or since the last full moon, there's an initiation that we've been through that I suppose we can look at and honour and see what that has been. Okay, what's that been? What's that been? Because Ceres has been around the North Node for quite a while now. She's retrograde and stuff. So what's the initiation that we've been going through into the Leo energy? As Michael also said, with Venus on the South Node and what we're connecting to, and the people being separate, learning to be separate while being, I suppose, also very engaged.
I think it's about commitment on a deeper level than just friendship.
Yeah. So, and where that's happening in your life, or I suppose also being very gracious for that. I see Capricorn energy as that as well, having gratitude for what we got.
Absolutely.
Gratitude for what we've built, where we are in life right now, and making the most of it. Actually, I see 2018 as the year to not be kind of going ahead full ball to plan more stuff. The plan is already here.
That's right.
You have already got the resources. We have already got everything we need. Like myself, I got the computer, I got the agents, I don't need any more. That's how I'm looking at it. So look at yourself with what you've got and what you can utilize with, making the most of yourself, your talents, your gifts, your resources, and putting them out there the best way you can. So perhaps we'll leave it at that. Anything
I think we can. Just everybody, if you just hope that all the people in your life are happier because you're in it, you're doing the right thing.
That's a nice thought, isn't it? Yeah. Spread the happiness. And thanks for being here, Michael. Very special agent.
One more.
One more. I forget that, the 3 thing. I have got French friends, and he used to live in Paris. So thanks, guys. Hang on, I'm just going to read what Carol said. I'm driving home across Victoria, so thank you for keeping me company on the drive. Oh, excellent. Great webinar. I always value Michael's insights. Of course we do.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Michael. See you, members. We'll be back in 2 weeks from India doing something. It might be a live Facebook thing, but there's a whole program, as you know, for the different agents coming on in this year. I finally kind of feel like I've sorted them out a bit too. So I'm glad about that. It actually makes my job a bit easier, or what I can get onto more so as well. So I'm looking forward to a really excellent year and a few retreats that we've got planned. More information about those soon, and maybe something in New York at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we've got a lot of members, agents around that area.
What would be fun to do is to have people send in issues or questions they want us to talk about before we do it.
Okay. Yeah, and so like a panel thing. Yeah.
Well, they would. Yeah. But that way it would go faster. They would send.
Sure.
They would send in their things they want us to cover.
Okay. Cool. Well, we actually can organise something like that when I'm in the US, because I'll be there in where am I? There, May, June. Yeah. So anyway, guys, have a great weekend. Happy eclipse season. Make the most of it. All right, like good agents. See you later. Thanks, Michael.